Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about something a little fiery today. We're going to talk about this bill that just passed the House called the H.R.8 Bill when it comes to sales of firearms. Before we get into it, let me just remind you, please and thank you for hitting that like button. Hitting the like button gets this message out to everybody else that might want to learn about some gun control that's coming. It ultimately just helps us expand. So I appreciate you for hitting that like button. Also smash subscribe. We are gaining followers. I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button, subscribe. Now let's talk about some gun control that's coming. We're going to talk about a bill that just passed in the House. Before we talk about the intricacy of this bill, let's just quickly brush up on our political science. The bills of the 117th United States Congress list includes proposed federal laws that were introduced in 117th United States Congress. The United States Congress is of the federal government of the United States, consisting of two houses. The lower house, known as the House of Representatives, which we're talking about in question today, and the upper house, known as Senate. The House and Senate are equal partners in the legislative process. Legislation cannot be enacted without the consent of both chambers. Once a bill is approved by the House, it is sent to the other side, which will pass, reject, or amend the bill. For the bill to become a law, both houses must agree to identical versions of the bill. After passage by both houses, a bill is enrolled and sent to the President of the United States of America for their signature or veto. Bills from the 117th Congress that have successfully completed this process become public laws. Okay, so now that we have that, and just a brief touch, the reason why there's an uneven amount here, there's three, the House, the Senate, and the President, okay, it's the checks and balances system. So there's not a majority. And the House of Representatives have passed this H.R.8 bill to tighten up gun control, okay? Now, we're going to talk about this bill. Listen to this bill. The bill established new background check requirements for the firearm transfer between private parties, i.e., unlicensed individuals. Specifically, it prohibits firearm transfers between private parties unless a licensed gun dealer, manufacturer, or importer first takes possession of the firearms to conduct a background check. The prohibition does not apply to certain firearm transfers. Here's the loophole, such as a gift between spouses in good faith. That is not uncommon when it comes to laws and financial monies moving back and forth, guys, by the way. However, remember, a bill must be passed by both House and Senate in identical form, then be signed by the President to come to law. So, the House has taken this bill, proposed it. It almost was unanimous. It was over 200 to 7. 200 checks, aye, 7 no's, with Republicans voting yes on this. Now, what does this mean? It means that the House wants to tighten up who is receiving weapons, which you may agree with or may not. Before we talk about if you agree or disagree with this, let's just quickly touch upon some history of Joe Biden, our now president, fighting the NRA, the National Rifle Association, who stands for the rights of owning weapons for the most part, in a very layman's terms. Joe Biden has taken on the National Rifle Association on the national stage and won twice, in 1993 and in 1994. As president, Joe Biden will defeat the NRA again. That is a public statement on Joe Biden's website, joebiden.com. Joe Biden always fights the NRA and he always wins. Understandably so, His agenda is to really tighten up guns, the gun control, and who has these guns during his presidency. All of these statements I'm about to read you are off of his website, joebiden.com. joebiden.com, this is his agenda. Hold gun manufacturers accountable. In 2005, then Senator Joe Biden voted against the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, but gun manufacturers successfully lobbied Congress to secure its passage. This law protects these manufacturers from being held civilly liable for their products, a protection granted to no other industry. Biden will prioritize repealing this protection. That statement is very, very similar to, say, Johnson & Johnson, a major company, or Pfizer, a major company, who are not liable if you die from the COVID vaccination. So this statement isn't necessarily correct. This is on his website. There are gray areas here. He wants to hold manufacturers accountable for finding the loopholes in producing weapons that he considers of war and hold them accountable if people are killing each other with them. What do you think? All of this is on his website. Get weapons of war off the street. The ban of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines that Biden, along with other senators, secured in the 1994 reduced the lethality of mass shootings. But in order to secure the passage of these bans, they had to agree on a 10-year sunset provision, and when the time came, the Bush administration failed to extend them. As president, Biden will ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Before we move on to the next statement that he has here, let's just talk about the last two pieces quickly when it comes to my perspective of it. Get weapons of war off the streets and ban the manufacture and sales of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Okay, first things first, Joe Biden nor the majority of our federal government has been to war, however, does deal in war, okay? So their perspective when it comes to weapons of war is machine guns and assault rifles. Now, your perspective might be different. My perspective is going to be much different as I've been to war, and no weapon is not a weapon of war. I've seen from knives to pistols to shotguns to assault rifles to machine guns to missiles to helicopters to tanks. What he wants to do is take assault rifles of domestic and foreign production away from the hands of Americans, potentially, but definitely ban the manufacture of assault weapons and others, they're called. The manufacturers will find loopholes and produce assault rifles without that title because they're considered others. All right? He's going to stop the production and sales of them first. Then, is he going to come get them out of our hands, is the question for those of us that own assault rifles. He will also regulate the possession of existing assault weapons under the National Firearm Act. Okay? Currently, the National Firearm Act requires individuals possessing machine guns, silencers, and short-barreled rifles to undergo a background check and register those weapons with the ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Due to these regulations and requirements, such weapons are rarely used in crimes. As President Biden will pursue legislation to regulate possession of existing assault weapons. Will he come and take them? Buy back the assault weapons and high-capacity magazines already in our community. Again, this is on his website. I'm reading this off his website, joebiden.com. Biden will also institute a program to buy back weapons of war currently on our streets. This will give individuals who now possess assault weapons or high-capacity magazines two options: sell the weapons to the government or register them under the National Firearm Act. Joe Biden's also going to reduce stockpiling of weapons. In order to reduce stockpilings of firearms, Biden supports legislation restricting the number of firearms an individual may purchase per month to 1, keeping guns out of dangerous hands, requiring background checks for all gun sales, close the loopholes in federal background check systems, reinstate the Obama-Biden policy to keep guns out of the hands of people unable to manage their affairs for mental reasons, which President Trump reversed. In 2016, the Obama administration finalized a rule to make sure the Social Security Administration sends to the background check system records that it holds of individuals who are prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms because they have been adjudicated by the SSA, the Social Security Administration, and unable to manage their affairs for mental reasons. But one of the first actions Donald Trump took as president was to reverse this rule. President Biden will enact legislation to correct this. Close the hate crime loophole. Biden will enact legislation prohibiting an individual who has been convicted of a misdemeanor hate crime or received an enhanced sentence for misdemeanors because of hate or bias in its commission, quote, from purchasing or possessing firearms. He wants to end the online sale of firearms and ammunition. Biden will enact legislation to prohibit all online sales of firearms, ammunition, kits, and gun parts. Sounds like a lot of job losses to me. Create an effective program to ensure individuals who become prohibited from possessing firearms relinquish their weapons. Adequately fund background check systems. Okay, this is Biden's statements on his website, okay? I want to quickly go over an overview of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, which we all know of, especially if we're gun owners, was originally stated in this format. The Second Amendment provides U.S. citizens the right to bear arms. Ratified in December 1791, the amendment says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. James Madison originally proposed the Second Amendment shortly after the Constitution was officially ratified as a way to provide more power to the state militias, which today are considered the National Guard. It was deemed a compromise between Federalists, those who support the Constitution as it was ratified, and the Anti-Federalists, those who support the states having more power. Having just used guns and other arms to ward off the English, the amendment was originally created to give citizens the opportunity to fight back against tyrannical federal governments. So what does this all mean? Are they going to take guns away from lawful gun owners? That is up to interpretation. I believe how you interpret the data I just gave you is perception. What it sounds like to me is Biden is proposing a lot of good when it comes to security, tightening up the loopholes for those who shouldn't have firearms, including background checks and those that have committed mistakes that have been deemed unlawful to carry firearms. I support that. I believe that you have to be responsible to carry a firearm, considering you can kill someone with it. Being around that type of environment, I assure you, you don't want individuals who can't handle the responsibility of taking another human's life to carry weapons. On the second part of the perception, what it sounds like to me is foreshadowing to come to take weapons out of lawful owners' hands to include assault weapons. I am here to tell you that what Joe Biden and our federal government considers an assault weapon are not, specifically an AR-15. The civilian version of the weapon of war, the M4, which the difference being is the cyclic rate of ammunition that could be fired through it. The military grade M4 can be designed for automatic weapon or 3-round burst, meaning you pull the trigger and 3 rounds come out, or you pull the trigger and all of the rounds come out until you're empty. The civilian version, which is not a weapon of war, let alone an assault rifle, the AR-15, I feel he's going to come after. You don't have to agree. However, the writing is on the wall and it's up to your interpretation. If Joe Biden doesn't successfully do this, his predecessor likely will. And I understand why it's happening. I understand what is happening. However, the federal government, infringing upon our right to bear arms, I believe is a fucking serious topic. Why? Because I love guns, I enjoy guns, I carry guns, I shoot guns. And I have for almost 20 years. And guess what? It's fun. And it's a leisure time of mine. And it very well might be for you. And this topic might not mean anything to you if you don't like guns or don't enjoy guns. However, I assure you there are topics that are important to you that I might not understand. And I would ask you to explain why it's important so I can understand your perspective. The perspective from me, who has carried guns in war and not in war, and shoots guns at least on a monthly basis, and enjoys the leisure time behind it and the networking that comes with it and the relationships that we build with it, and the fact that I feel secure when I'm wearing expensive jewelry and driving expensive cars and carrying lots of cash on me, thousands of dollars, is well worth my peace. I believe in our right to carry arms. I believe in our right to bear arms. I believe in the right to tighten down the loopholes. I do not believe in the right to take weapons out of our hands if we're legally responsible to carry them. That's my perception. I leave it up to you guys. That being said, if you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments. I would love to be able to discuss this topic with you. It's near and dear to me. If it's near and dear to you, let's talk about it. We talked about the H.R.8 Bill passed by the House. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys liked it. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Drop a comment below. All right. I appreciate your feedback. I want to talk about it. Let's talk about it. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment below. Let's talk. Hit subscribe, hit like. Let's get this conversation moving. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you next week.